Right, good afternoon and welcome along to Keep Cardiff Live. And this afternoon, we've got our two guests, Steven Davies and Jordan Howell, with us. We're going to find out a little bit of information about a fantastic project that they're involved with. But first, I'd like to know a little about the two of you as individuals. So first, if I could come to Steven, if you could just tell me a little bit about the project and yourself, please.
Hiya, Tony. Yes, well, I've worked for an Iron Bevan University Health Board for 29 years. I'm based, obviously, in the general office. Most of my duties involve finance and administration tasks. Back a couple of years ago, I was put on the secondment where I'd done project management. And while I was obviously doing this project management, I noticed, obviously, some of the things which were going on the wards, due to the single room environment, and I wanted to do something about it because I could see, obviously, the patients, the boredom, the isolation and the loneliness. And yeah, basically the TV sets were stuck on one channel. I think we had 30 rooms on a ward and they had 2 remote controls. And I actually remember leaving after doing a shift, and I thought to myself, in this day and age, I want to give the patient something a bit better. And at that particular moment, I didn't know what. We will come to that in a minute. But yeah, the idea had been in my head for a couple of years.
Okay, well, so it's intriguing already what the idea is, and it's a fascinating idea. So we're going to talk about it in a second, but I also want to introduce Jordan. So hi, Jordan, and can you tell us a little bit about your role in this project as well?
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, sure. So I'm a third-year journalism student at the University of South Wales, and Stephen reached out to one of our lecturers there, Steve Johnson, who looks after our work experience module. We've got to do a certain amount of work experience for this final year. And one of the projects that was mentioned was this project that Stephen set up. So I was sort of brought on board, and some of the other students in my year, to sort of figure out how it was going to be done. Stephen had this amazing idea, but we weren't quite sure how we were going to make it work. So I'm quite technically minded, so set to work, and we finally managed to sort it out. And I suppose it's not a traditional hospital radio station. It's it's not live, sorry. It's an on-demand radio network for the hospital, for patients that are in the hospital itself, for anyone outside of the hospital as well. So it's not limited in that way, but we provide so much content and so many different types of content. We've got in-depth interviews, we've got sports recaps, we're going to have more news-focused stuff, we've got how to speak certain conversational Spanish, walking trails. So it's really diverse, and it's just a service that hopefully keeps patients entertained and informed as well. But technically that's kind of my side, and helping set up the platform itself, and also organizing the content and getting content online.
Sounds fascinating. So basically, Stephen, you come up with this idea and you don't really know where to go with it, do you? I mean, it's a great idea. Steve Johnson has got involved, as we'll come on to mentioning some of the other team members in a minute. I think it's important that it sounds like you work very much as a team. So where do you take it from there? So obviously, Jordan is helping with the technical side of it. So you had this idea, this sort of concept, but then how do you turn that into a practical thing that works?
Well, I tell you what, basically what happened, I was speaking to a colleague in work, and music, as we all know, we've all of us have got a great love of music. It's such a powerful tool. It can obviously, reduce, obviously, stress, improve, obviously, your mood, dare I say it, even your rehabilitation. And I thought to myself, now, is there a way, obviously, because first of all, I was looking, Tony, for maybe dementia patients, to do maybe guest the year kind of shows to jog their memory and stuff like that. But then I kept on getting more and more ideas, and I thought, well, hold on now, let's get obviously to the, all these ideas sound great, but I got to get someone obviously, to help me with the project. So I basically, my foot in the door, that's the way I like to say that I done it. I rang up obviously the University of South Wales, I spoke to a gentleman, I think his name's Chris Wright, you probably would know him, who put me in touch with Anna Dent, who's the external engagement manager. I came down to the actual atrium, met Anna, and she then obviously said, I think the ideal person for you to speak to would be Steve Johnson. And then it was taken from me. I arranged another meeting, obviously, to go down to the atrium. And I got to say it, it's a wonderful university. I've been down there on about 7 or 8 occasions. And I told Steve my idea, and then he tried to give, obviously, his way of how we could maybe put this idea of mine, which was, dare I say, a bit of a blunt idea at the time, we could basically put it, and use it to the best way. And of course, with Steve's obviously experience with all this community radio, and we work for Red Dragon, I think both of us struck up a friendship and could see it had great potential.
Sounds fantastic. From your point of view now, Jordan, I mean, you say you're quite good with the technical side of it. So Stephen and Stephen present this idea to you, I guess, and then you've got to work. How can you practically get this, into the rooms for the patients? And I'm sure there's quite a few pitfalls. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so when we started, this was, I think I got involved around September last year, and loved the idea. It was really interesting. It was something that was so different to anything that I'd heard before, and whilst doing it, it gives me a chance to develop, interviewing skills, audio editing skills, and so many other skills that we have been learning in university. But quite quickly, we realized there were a number of hurdles that we were going to have to overcome. And the main problem that we had was to do with music licensing. So we reached out to PRS, we reached out to PPL, but it was a real struggle for what we were doing to be able to get them to license us. So our way around that is by using Mixcloud, which a lot of DJs use to upload their sets, and you put the track listing in, and it takes care of all of the licensing. So we use that for the music side of it, which can include shows like Stephen mentioned there, Guess the Year. We've got a few of those. We've got forgotten hits of the 70s, the 80s, and stuff like that. We'll do music documentaries too. But then we have speech-based content as well without music. So with Mixcloud, people outside the hospital can listen to it, but it doesn't get pushed to platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts.
Right.
And one of my when we were looking at the platform, me and Stephen, obviously from a hospital point of view, music is a great healer.
Yeah.
And that was based on feedback that Stephen was getting, something that we definitely needed. But on the other side, with putting out hospital messaging and these in-depth interviews and this other content, it's stuff that I really wanted to be able to circulate really widely. So we're using Anchor, which is by Spotify. It's a platform from Spotify for all of our speech-based content. And when we upload that, it pushes it automatically to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, basically. That in itself presented its own challenge because patients at the hospital there are typically of an older age. So we needed to make it as simple as possible. And having 2 platforms, we know isn't ideal, but it's just something that we had to have. So I made a small sort of micro website, which patients can access on their own devices or the tablets that are on the hospital wards. And it's really simple. There's a button to click on for music content. It takes them straight to Mixcloud. The same for speech. There's a feedback form. There's an about us. There's a team page. So all of the information is there and really easy to find. And as far as I'm aware, and some of the feedback we've had so far is really positive, and that has made it easier for patients. But we're really starting to increase our content output now, including you guys, Keep Cardiff Live, for allowing us to use some of the music interviews. So we're obviously crediting you when we put those out, and it's really good to be developing this partnership a bit more. But that, as Stephen will say, is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to partnerships with the community.
Definitely.
I can imagine that, that there's been such an amount of hard work put into this. You know, I mean, it's probably months that you've been developing and working through this. So is there a team of you? I mean, is there somebody who has come in and helped in different areas of how do you work it? Do you have regular meetings? And, you know, how have you got to the stage where you've got now where you've actually launched it?
Well, what happened was after I spoke to Steve Johnson the second time, Steve put me in touch with a gentleman called John Poyner. John Poyner works for the Philly Council, my local council. And John and Steve had known each other for a number of years. And John had actually been responsible for putting in some radio stations or radio equipment in some local schools. So when we met about the second or third time, the idea was it was going to be some students and there was also going to be some local school children, because I was keen for everyone to get something out of the project. Well, just as I was going to a number of local schools, and most of them obviously were very accommodating and was going to take part. I've now got some taking part. Obviously, unfortunately, COVID hit, so that obviously put us back a few months as well. But I'm pleased to say that we've got 3 local schools currently doing content for us. One of them is a Welsh school because we thought it would be really important. That was one of my aims, to get Welsh content out there. But what I done, I visited a number of our wards in YYFM with a volunteer before COVID, and I spoke to a number of patients. We took up forms, you know, for them to fill in questionnaires, asking them what they'd like to listen to. Is it a particular like drama thing or local history? And they gave us some real good, obviously, feedback from the questionnaires. So then once I knew, obviously, a broad idea what we were looking for, I then had to submit a bid to my charitable funding within my health board, which took about 6 weeks till they actually start. And I was successful then, obviously, with my funding bid. So then that's when we started buying the equipment, which the students and Jordan obviously came up one day to the hospital, visited it. And like I got to say, yeah, they're doing a fantastic job, to be honest with you. And I would like to endorse what Jordan said about Keep Cardiff Live. I love going on it. I go on it a couple of times a week myself. So to obviously you guys to reach out and give us some of your content is, you know, I'm really chuffed about it.
It's really kind words. Thank you, Stephen. I think you know, one of the things that we enjoy doing is being involved with people and involved with communities. I mean, from what you've told me about your project so far, it's just perfect in terms of that, isn't it? You know, involving schools, involving students. You know, obviously the end game is the patients as well. It's just such a great concept to involve so many different people. How has it been received? You know, I mean, how are the patients? Are the patients enjoying it? Have you had some feedback about it?
Well, the feedback that I've had from where I do work, it's nice that you can hear, obviously, sometimes when you're going past certain departments, you can hear the music on. And yeah, we launched on the 15th of February. The feedback that I've got, obviously, from my hospital has been quite positive, to be honest with you. When I go back now, I want to tap into the rehabilitation physiotherapists, because there's a lot of people, obviously, who've had strokes. And I'd like is there a certain kind of music we can do to enhance, obviously, their rehabilitation? I'm quite friendly with 2 of the rehabilitation people from there. So I know that it's being listened to in a number of different hospitals, because as Jordan said, the beauty of this was originally, it was just going to be an Ystrad coming through the TV sets, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But now I'm getting feedback, obviously, from the new hospital down in Cwmbran, the Grange.
Right.
People are listening to it up in Ebervale, up in Yab. So it's beyond my wildest dreams at the moment, because it's reaching more and more people. And I said to Jordan the other day, I went to my local post office and someone had one of the guests of yours on. And then I went to another shop in Ystrad and they had the conversational Spanish on. So, you know, it's brilliant. I mean, it's, you know, and someone said, you're the guy who's responsible for this. And I said, well, it's not just me. You know, I said, there's a lot of people who've played, you know, major roles in this. I said, it was an idea that I come up with. So, yeah, I mean, I'm open, like I said, that the longer, obviously, you know, more people will get to know about YYFM, and we can establish it, consolidate it, and dare I say it, obviously make it better. keep on improving. I mean, we got a feedback page on our obviously site anyway. So, we welcome anything, on there, positive. And if people, say, well, can you look at something else? We're more than happy to do that.
Do you think that it could be rolled out? I mean, obviously a national level in Wales, but I mean the whole of the UK, really. I mean, it's such a great concept of an idea, I think, and it does rely on people putting their time in free and helping. But I think that's what community is about. I think it's a really good idea. Have you had any sort of feedback as to maybe it might be taken up on a national basis? I'm not sure if the NHS is the right person to quote here, but if it would be taken up across any other hospitals.
Well, I'll let Jordan say something about that now, but just to let you know, the second time I met Steve Johnson, one of the things we talked about was I thought that if it was a success, not just in Wales, but there's so many different health boards, there's so many local schools, universities with this. Obviously, I don't like the word obviously forerunners or guinea pigs, but we were obviously the first, to come up with it. As Jordan said, I think it's a unique project, but it's just something that I wanted everyone to get something out of. Like I said, my number one concern was to start off with was the patients, but now I can see obviously with the students and the school children, the benefits they get in work experience. We had a recent Zoom call, because we have one now every fortnight, and we were saying about maybe acknowledging, because originally I'd said to Steve Johnson, well, can the school children work towards maybe like a BTEC, if they spend a lot of time on a project. Now, whether or not that would be possible, but then they were saying about maybe like giving them certain badges, like media badges, because, I mean, to take part in this, to be honest with you, you want to be rewarded for, putting in a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a great idea. I mean, you've made great strides just to get where you are now. But when you think of what you can develop this into the future, and with the help of talented people, like Jordan and the other students, I see it really progressing. That's my view from our website. We're proud to be involved with it. It's just such a fascinating project. I mean, I think we're coming towards the end of this little interview now, but we are going to do a feature on Keep Cardiff Live about the whole project. What would you like to say to people? Maybe other people want to get involved. Maybe you want to take something that you've sort of inspired them to do as well from this project. What would you sort of the advice be to people?
We want to get as many people as possible involved in the project. Like you said, I mean, Jordan was just saying earlier, I mean, I've reached out to a few people within the L service. I mean, I think we're in a great position where we are at the moment now, where we can get the messages out. You got someone like with Jordan Belair now, and I got to say it, I don't like singling people out, but he's done a fantastic job, obviously, in setting this up. The students, obviously, as well, with the interviews or whatever. But I mean, we got some obviously walking trails going on here, diabetes. We're looking now at obviously doing stuff with mental health. I've just come off the phone now today. I was speaking to an ed teacher. World Autism Awareness Week is coming up now at the end of March. We're in a position where we can put so much stuff out. And I'd like to think word of mouth, the more people who get to know about YYFM, the more organizations the better, to be honest with you. The only thing we're not touching is anything obviously political or religious or stuff like that. No. Anything which can benefit the listener, we'd be more than interested in obviously speaking to people.
And it could be so adapted, can it? The YYFM idea can be adapted. Like you mentioned, lots of different, sort of people involved in disabilities of some sort, or also learning difficulties, mental health issues. It can be adapted in so many different ways, can't it? It's such a flexible idea as well, isn't it? I think that's a brilliant thing about it. You just need the people with a bit of passion and drive behind it as well. I mean, talking to people with passion and drive, there's obviously a team of you working behind this. Is there anybody else you'd like to mention who have contributed skills as well to it?
Yeah, I will say before Stephen mentioned something else. I didn't know Stephen before I got involved in this project in around September, but literally we talk either by email or by phone nearly every other day. I've already said that when I graduate, I'm not planning to leave the project. I think it's a really cool, exciting project because traditional hospital radio is live and then it's sort of gone, but it's all on demand and it's free. And you were mentioning earlier about it potentially rolling out to other hospitals or further afield from Wales. The content isn't sort of ring fenced within the hospital. Anyone can access it, and there is this team. Like Stephen said again, we meet bi-weekly now, but we were meeting every week, and there's people on the call. We've got a handful of other journalism students from the University of South Wales. We have students there that like and cover the entertainment and arts. We have someone that really looks after the sports section, and we had a meeting just a little while ago, myself and the guy that looks after our sports stuff, Gareth, and a couple of sports journalists are going to come on board as well. You know, we're dealing with Caerphilly Borough Council, the schools, we've got people in the hospital, in the maternity, physio, diabetes unit, and it's all like it. If you go on there, there will be a good handful of content that you will like. You may not like all of it, but there will definitely be a good handful of content that anyone will like. We've been able to speak to the chief executive of NHS Wales, having only been launched for a month, something that, I couldn't have even imagined would have happened. It's not, the interviews aren't journalists looking for news lines. It's interviews of journalism students that want to provide a good interview with someone that would interest someone that's in hospital. So it's not, we're not looking for news lines. We're talking about how the chief exec of NHS Wales grew up. What did he do for his education? How did he get to how he was? Obviously, we'll talk about COVID. But, it's all really relevant stuff and really interesting stuff, not just a news story. So the interviews are a really good, interesting listen. So I definitely recommend listening to a few. And yours, of course, the Keep Cardiff Live ones, obviously.
Yeah, well, we're trying our best. I mean, I love the idea. It's everything that I really believe in as well in terms of community, and it's innovative and the ideas are great, and it's communication, and at the end of the day it's helping somebody who is going through a bad time, lying in a hospital bed, and like you said, the diversity of it is fantastic. If people wanted to get involved in the project or future projects, perhaps, if you do want to set anything else up, is that something that you encourage? Would they be able to get in touch with you via email, or is that what you're looking for? Maybe that you can get some more people to help with the project?
Yeah, definitely. So the website where people can access the speech, the music content, more details about the project, and there's also a feedback form, so you can contact us that way. The website is itsyyfm.com,
Right.
and or you can email contact@itsyyfm.com, and on socials as well. The username is itsyyfm. So have a look on there if you want to find out more about the project, and get in touch if you want to request content, or if you've got an idea. We'll always listen to that and get more people involved if they're up for it.
Brilliant. I love, what Stephen was saying about the hearing stuff in the post office when he went down there. And, I think that's one of the things. I mean, hospital radio is great, but I mean, this is just something else, isn't it? It just moves into another area. And the fact that people can obtain it on their own personal devices, their iPads or their phones or whatever, just gives it such a different scope, and it really embraces a community. I hope that we have a long relationship working with you at Keep Cardiff Live. I'm really grateful you come along and done the interview today to explain to people. And if there's anything that we can do in the future for you, then please do get in touch. But for the time being, I'd like to thank Stephen and Jordan for your time today, and every success for the project and other projects in the future.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much, Tony.
Cheers.